He had always wanted a dog. Not just any dog, but one that needed a second chance, an animal with a story, one that had been overlooked. The day he walked into the shelter, his eyes were drawn to a golden retriever sitting quietly at the back of the kennel. There was something in the way the dog looked at him. Not fear, not eagerness, just quiet hope. He filled out the paperwork, went through the usual protocols, and that very week, the dog came home with him. From the first moment the golden retriever entered his home, it was like the dog had been waiting for this family all along. Calm, obedient, and affectionate, the dog quickly became a beloved companion. Friends commented on how well behaved he was. Neighbors admired how the dog walked calmly on a leash. The man felt lucky. He had found not only a pet, but a gentle soul. But as the days passed, he noticed something strange. Every night, after the house grew quiet, the dog would settle just outside the bedroom door. There was a small gate meant to keep the dog from wandering in. It wasn't locked, just a soft boundary. The man thought nothing of it at first. The dog was probably adjusting to a new home, after all. But night after night, the golden retriever stayed there, still and silent, watching. While the rest of the house slept peacefully, the dog stood guard. Sometimes lying down with his head resting on his paws, other times sitting, eyes fixed on the man through the opening in the door. And every morning, the man would find him in the same position, awake, as if he had never closed his eyes. He began to worry. Maybe the dog wasn't getting enough rest. Maybe he was too anxious or stimulated during the day. So the man changed the routine. He added longer walks, more playtime, calmer evenings, soft music, treats before bed, and reassuring pats. But the behavior continued. Always, the dog chose to stay by the bedroom gate, watching, waiting, never sleeping. Eventually, the man brought him to the vet. They ran tests, checked everything. The dog was perfectly healthy. There was no physical reason for the behavior. The vet shrugged gently and said it could be emotional. Dogs, like people, carried past wounds that sometimes took longer to heal. The man couldn't let it go. He wanted to understand. He wanted to help. So he returned to the shelter, hoping someone there might remember more about the golden retriever's past. He asked questions, searched records, and finally found someone who had been there the day the dog was surrendered. The staff member paused when she heard the dog's name. Her expression softened, then turned somber. She told the man something he hadn't expected. The dog had belonged to a couple, a man and a woman. When the woman became pregnant, they made the decision to give the dog up. They were worried they wouldn't have time or energy for both a newborn and a pet. So, one night, the husband waited until the dog had fallen asleep. He gently placed the sleeping animal into his car and drove to the shelter. He never said goodbye. He never let the dog wake up. The idea was to avoid the pain of parting. When the dog woke up, he was in a strange place, surrounded by unfamiliar faces, without the family he had trusted. That moment stayed with him. As the man listened, a heavy silence filled the room. Everything made sense now. The dog wasn't just being cautious. He was afraid to sleep. Afraid that if he closed his eyes, he might wake up and everything would be gone again. That the new home, the new human, the safety he had just begun to trust, would vanish like before. That night, the man didn't close the bedroom gate. He left it wide open. The dog hesitated at first, unsure. But then, slowly, he stepped inside. He curled up at the foot of the bed, his head resting gently near the man's feet, and for the first time since coming home, he slept deeply. The man shared his story online, not for attention, but in the hope that others might understand. It quickly spread. People were moved by the quiet loyalty of a dog and the silent pain he had carried. Messages poured in from others who had adopted pets with hidden scars. Some shared their own tales of animals who flinched at certain sounds, or who couldn't bear to be left alone, or who waited by the door long after someone had gone. The story sparked a larger conversation. People began to talk about the emotional lives of animals, about what they remember, what they feel, and how deeply they can hurt. Scientists weighed in too, pointing out how the brains of dogs and humans shared many of the same structures, that dogs could feel happiness, fear, sadness, and even something close to love. The golden retriever became a quiet symbol of resilience, not the kind that charges forward loudly, but the kind that waits by a door every night, refusing to sleep because he once trusted someone who never came back. And yet, when given another chance, he chose to trust again. In time, the dog no longer waited by the door. He climbed onto the bed, stretched out his legs, and fell asleep knowing he was home. The man would often wake up to find a warm nose resting near his pillow or feel a gentle sigh from the bundle of fur at his side. It was a kind of peace he hadn't expected from adopting a pet, a kind of loyalty that spoke without word. And somewhere in the stillness of the night, a man and a dog who had both been let down before found comfort in simply knowing they were no longer alone.